I can tell you everything that I've done that's wrong that could have kept me from having the career that I've had. But grace, the universe, has decided, let's help this fool out.
Don't you know that the music should be solemn?
This is Theo Rossi. This is Theory. Boom shakalaka. Yo, here comes the Chief Rocker. Hey, everybody. What's up? How are we? What's going down? Today. Hope you're all well. So today, we got my guy, my man, my brother. Some people might say, what do they say nowadays? Your bestie. My guy, Charles Murray, otherwise known as C. Murray, otherwise known as Chief Rocker, was an executive producer, writer, director on Sons of Anarchy, executive producer, writer, director on Luke Cage, Marvel's Luke Cage, 2 shows that I did, recently. It's just an incredible writer, more importantly, an incredible person, and someone who I speak to on the regular all the time about everything. So this is one of those times. So, without further ado, let's go sit down with my fellow human, Charles Murray. So we're doing this again. And just so you know, and I think I said this once with somebody else, but you and I speak probably too much, but we actually recorded a show. We recorded a show and then everything changed. Right. And then the world changed dramatically. Yes, it did. And it's seemingly nonstop. That was probably over. It's got to be 5 months ago when we actually recorded one of our conversations. Thank God we don't record our daily conversations.
No,
no, we can't do that. You're in Cali.
Yes, sir.
You've been locked down.
Yes, I have.
And you've been like me, where you've been like really locked down. You've been like doing it.
Well, yeah, because I'm a hermit by nature. So when someone said, "Oh, you can't come out of your house," I was like,
"And
wait, is it Christmas?" Keeping in mind the severity of what's happening, but just in my own universe, I think if you were to talk to my ex-wife, she would say, "This is how he is normally." I don't go out. I don't hang out with a lot of people. I don't do a lot of interacting. I keep it simple.
And it's so crazy because I said the same thing. And again, with the severity of everything going on, and I think, for me, all my people were decimated in New York and all the stuff with, COVID. And then there's a lot of positives that have come out of this, which, I'm sure we'll go into. But like in the everyday life, when I'm not filming, when I'm not away, I'm like a robot. I don't leave. I don't go anywhere. I work from home. I eat the same thing every day. So for me, I'm purposely on lockdown all the time. Right. And again, like you, I'm a hermit. So for me, not much has changed, but we were talking about the benefits of it. For me, it's like the benefits are, how much I've been spending so much time with my kids and my wife. And while having 2 kids under 5 is crazy at this moment, and especially not knowing what's going on with school and all that kind of stuff coming up, it's been hectic. But the difference is here, they've been in camp and stuff. But with you live near your kids, right?
Yeah, well, they go back and forth between their mother's house and my house, and they're 16 and 18 now. So, it's they get cabin fever just as much, but
yeah.
When they get it, they pretty much just jump in my oldest kid's car and go for a drive. You know,
And the young kids around the country, they've been out. Like they seem to not care about anything. They're just out doing I see these videos of kids partying and
yes,
they feel invincible, which we all felt. I mean,
I never felt it. Yeah. Now when you're a brother growing up in Indiana, you do not feel invincible. You always feel like,
and in Gary.
You feel like you're a stray bullet from some nut case or a stray bullet from somebody else.
And it's always, and in Gary, Indiana, where you grew up, for people that are listening, it's always because Gary is like crazy number, high level, like the black population is like over 85 or 90% or something, right?
Well, it is now. Now, once Gary was like the number 2 steel industry in America behind Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
And for a long time, it was predominantly white. And then there was an exodus when Richard Hatcher became mayor. Once we, got the first black mayor of an industrialized city, although there's a quibble between us and Cleveland, because I think it's like a half hour or something. But there was an exodus. There was white flight, and then they didn't move far. They moved like maybe 15 miles, and then they literally seceded from the city, and it became Maryville, Indiana. And so when they started moving out, black folks started moving in, and and then the steel industry left, and now it's in very bad shape. A lot of people will say that the black folks took over and things went crazy, but nobody wants to talk about how America took steel from Japan. I mean, not from Japan, to Japan, but they took it from Pittsburgh and Gary in the 80s recession. Yeah,
the film, my last film that I finished was set in Braddock, which was where all the steel was being made. And when I tell you that it is decimated, the entire Braddock is decimated. Obviously, same thing. It's kind of, where you could just tell the town has been completely ransacked. And when I was doing my research of looking at it, like when it was bustling, it was beautiful, like all the streets and like everything that they had set up there. And then the whole industry gets pulled. And that's kind of the story of this country. That happens a lot, right? Where we just literally take towns that they get set up a certain way, then they get decimated. And I'm curious with everything that's going on now with COVID and all that, like what industries are going to survive. They're saying restaurants are going to have a hard time. There's going to be bigger corporations, but not even just what industries, like what towns, like if they're more local, like mom and pop's towns, are they going to be decimated? Lower income towns are going to be decimated. I read somewhere that 50% of black small businesses are going to be not come back from this, but only like 14% of white small businesses, just due to how the margins of people surviving on like what they needed to survive, as in. Right. So
but that 14%, I mean, that's the trick with statistics is like, somebody tweeted me about how, blacks drop out more than whites, and blacks get more pregnant than whites, and right. But if you look at the actual numbers, it's like if there's 34 million, let's say there's 16 million black dropouts. That same number, as it applies to white people, is like 34 million. So when people play stats, they miss out on people. So that 14% is going to be quite severe when you get into, Iowa and Arkansas and, places like that. So, it's going to be bad for everybody. And the grand scheme, is how, how all people of all colors are being dealt with or represented, and I'm not trying to, be, apolitical. It's just that when white folks look at stats and they say, oh, look, it's just 14% as opposed to 35. If you're living in, well-to-do places, you're living in, the metropolitan New York City, or you're living in Los Angeles, New York, or the Los Angeles City, and you look at those numbers and you go, look at the difference. You're not looking at the people. You're not looking at the people who have to go through this tragedy, who have built up companies and aren't going to come back. Black, white, Asian, Latino, otherwise. Because that means, in one sense, it might mean, oh, a bunch of soul food restaurants are never going to open again. But it also means, a bunch of sandwich stores aren't going to open again.
That's right. Yeah. And also, I think, like you said about numbers, what a lot of people, and this is where I fear that so many people are getting their information from social media. They're getting a lot of their history from social media. They're getting, and if not from there, they're getting them from like documentaries that potentially weren't well researched or weren't like done right. And, and we're, it's almost like and not to veer off, but it's almost like, not talking to scientists about science stuff. We're getting it from like news broadcasters who are whatever. The point is that the numbers thing is really interesting. Our mutual friend, my man Ebro, and I would say, it's really hard when people are like, how come you didn't finish first in the race? And I'm like, I started outside the stadium. You guys were at the starting line, because when you look at certain populations of 13% or 6% or 2%, and then they start flooding you with numbers, they don't realize the disparity in whatever. And I think that that's where this fear that I have of social media that I've seen throughout all this is people don't take the time to research anything anymore. No, so they see something and they go, that's fact. Right. That's fact.
Right.
And then they go, man, that person's a terrible person. That's fact. Or look at that. Did you see that? Look at that prison stat. That's that. And I go, but wait a second. That's not true. How come that has 10,000 retweets? And it's because somebody who has a big following. So kind of truth has been blurred, right? Of what it is.
Truth is based on word usage. If you have a better facility at using words, and it doesn't necessarily mean if you are smarter, it means that word delivery is based on inflection, tone, the choice behind the choice, what you're saying versus what someone's hearing. That's why marketing is king. Mm-hmm. If you can remember a jingle from when you're, be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Yeah. As soon as I say that, everybody, that's about the deliberation of word usage. And sometimes the people know, the marketers know, if you make it sound simple, if you keep it, Twitter did not arrive at 140 characters just because, and then you have to learn the usage within the usage. So, as a person who writes, we're constantly talking about what's the better word here, what's the better phrase here, what's the better response here. So you come to an understanding that when you look at social media, and which I think is funny because it's like the people who tell you not to trust media turn to media to tell you what you shouldn't trust. Mm-hmm. Going according to what you just said. But you gotta understand that even when you use phrases of the moment, it's because of what it activates in your brain. And if it activates the right thing in your brain, and when I mean right, I mean what's right to the person, then you can get people there. There's a reason that CIA, UFO, KKK, FBI are letters, because it immediately lands in your brain, and it's it's laid out in a way that it activates however your brain works. So people, when you say truth becomes just as much about what people are willing to accept on the move as actual truth. I can't listen to, our top story tonight is to catch you in case you're not going to watch the rest of it. We'll be right back. As it means don't move. It's, these words are telling you certain things.
Somebody called it recently. Somebody said fear porn, right? Like just that fear that we strike into people to try to get them to pay attention, right? And then sometimes you read it a little further and you go, wait, but that headline is a little misleading of what I'm actually reading here. But they got me, right? They won. But you touched on something that's really important to me, because, you and I are technically in the same business, the same crazy fucking business that terrorized me my entire life for the last 20 years, literally terrorizes me. And every day I get up and say, man, I absolutely love acting. I love creating, but man, this business terrorizes me, because I almost tweeted something or wrote something last night. I wrote, Hollywood will always find a way to make it about themselves. And I said, don't write that. Don't write that. There's no, and now here I am saying it on this, but the thing is that you said something about writing. This has been very interesting to me. I, like you, love movies. I love Hollywood. I love the history of it, bad and good, because I like to know from, Charlie Chaplin up. Like, I want to know all the stuff that went on in the Mack Sennett studios, up to Jack Warner, up to Daryl Zanuck, everything, like to now to where we are. The patience that I found. I put on Sunset Boulevard the other night. My wife, Megan, hadn't seen it.
Oh, wow.
10 minutes in, she's sleeping. It's over for her.
It's like, whatever.
Right. She's just like the black and white, the way they're speaking, the cadence of the voice. She's out.
Right.
I'm all in. I'm watching everything. I'm like, wow, this is
because you're seeing your life playing before you.
Playing before me. And I'm going like, this is so, it shows how crazy Hollywood was. I don't know when that movie came out, 45, 50 or whatever it was.
1947, I think. I'm not sure. Let's go to social media.
Yeah, let's go. And that we don't have somebody here. We need somebody on the computer. And that movie made me think that, do people have the patience anymore?
1950.
Same crazy ass shit.
I'll tell you a story about it real quick, because anybody who's going to go watch Sunset Boulevard, they'll try to watch it.
Please watch it. Billy
Wilder makes Sunset Boulevard, right? He wanted Montgomery Clift. He couldn't get Montgomery Clift.
Is that is that pre-Clift accident, post-Clift accident?
I think it's pre-Clift accident. Okay. But he's on the rise. So he's like, I can't do this. I think at the time he was involved with an older actress. So that was really a no-no. Yes, exactly. Yeah. But, Rock Hudson was married.
Yeah. Different time.
You had to do what you had to do.
Yeah.
And so William Holden, he approaches William Holden. He goes, no, I can't do that. I cannot do this movie. And so Billy Wilder went to Paramount and said, I need him. So they locked William Holden down, made him do the movie before
against his will.
Kind of against his will, right? And so they make the movie, and they have the premiere. And you want to talk about movies and life kind of running up against each other. I think it was Louis B. Mayer comes up to him after the screening and tells Billy Wilder, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for making this movie. How dare you make something about Hollywood when this town has given you your entire career, like in front of a bunch of people, right? And Billy Wilder, being Billy Wilder, who like was one of the few of his family to escape the Holocaust, you know, you never could shake him off of his convictions. And he just turned around and looked at Louis B. Mayer and he went, "Fuck you." Walked off, right? So you had a Sunset Boulevard moment post the screening of Sunset Boulevard, right? So, but anyway, yeah.
And I go back to films like that all the time, right? And listen, I'm not going to say that all old films, there are a lot that are slow. There are a lot that are hard to watch. There are a lot that, you know, aren't maybe as great as there are some that I've sitting through and I've gone, you know what? I get it. This is on the AFI top, whatever. It's just not for me. But there are ones like Sunset Boulevard that I just think are masterpieces. Casablanca, you know, Citizen Kane, things that we,
right. You named 3 failures. Keep going. 3
failures in the theater. Right.
Yeah.
As a writer, what you do right now, have you had to change your style of writing? Because we've been in the business almost the same amount of time, right? How many years you been in?
20 as a professional.
Okay. Same with me. And obviously the super lean, the beginnings but 20 where we've been in the game.
Right.
Has your style of writing changed because of the attention span of what it is now? No.
My style of writing has changed because I evolve as a writer, you know, and I have yet to write on a project that demands following the masses, you know. So, you know, whether I worked with David Milch, who I apprenticed for, Stephen Bochco, who I wrote for, all the way to Kurt Sutter, there's a lineage there. Like Kurt's writing reflects David Milch, you know. And then, you know, with the nature of how we did Luke Cage, where there were full scenes and it was a slower paced show in terms of, you know, you would think, oh, it's action, so we got to boop, 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 boop. We shouldn't be in the scene but this long. We never had to deal with that. So I've never had to encounter writing differently because of the times.
Right. Like a lot of these new platforms, like the Quibi shows or like these shorter ones that they're like 5-minute episodes or whatever. And obviously you can't do long monologues like we did on Sons or like we did in Cage. And I'm not just saying monologues, just longer scenes that are maybe more drawn out, like a real conversation. Like you I
think that might be where Quibi made its mistake, because Quibi used YouTube as a study, and they looked at time. But if you watch a lot of these, you know, shows that are made for YouTube,
yeah,
that 5-minute episode might be one scene.
Yeah.
You know,
so it's almost like an episode broken down, like a 60-minute.
Yeah. You know, so, but they looked at it as like, okay, well, 10 minutes is what people want to watch. And, you know, so each scene shouldn't be any longer than, you know, I'm supposing this. We're talking about research, but I've watched a couple, and there are a couple where the scenes take their time, but what they think is a cliffhanger isn't a cliffhanger in YouTube. There's a finality in each of those webisodes.
Yes.
But they still take their time, because the one thing that I think Quibi didn't get is the YouTube episodes are the YouTube episodes. They're designed the way they're designed because those people have little money.
Mm-hmm. They have to be efficient. They have to be efficient.
They have to be efficient. So, you know, like a car scene is going to be an episode.
Yep. Because they can't afford 6 other locations and
exactly.
Yep.
You know, and so I think when even when we know that MTV changed the look and the pattern of film and television. You know, MTV, Miami Vice was pitched as MTV Cops.
That's interesting. With cocaine.
Right? Well, you know, there was a lot of cocaine being done on MTV land, but it was about the pattern. It was about the lack of repetition, the constant strive to move forward. You know, even if you think of Jan Hammer's theme song, and they were trying to cut to that in the title sequence, right? But even still, the majority of movies that came out during that time that tried to follow that pattern, very few of them are remembered.
The 80s, the mid to late 80s.
Yeah. You know, you think about those quick-paced, super choppy, colorful, in-your-face type films. You know, we don't remember Michael Mann for Band of the Hand.
No.
You know, we remember him for Thief from that time.
I'm trying to think of like some of those. You got me now on like on the bright, you know, kind of pastel-y 80s movies that I would remember. I mean, it's not set in the 80s, but Scarface is 80s, right?
Yeah,
that's 80s?
Yeah, that's 80s.
And it's set in the 80s too, right?
Yeah. But
so
what you don't remember is that Scarface was a 2.5 hour movie.
Scarface was a 2.5 hour movie.
You know, and De Palma did long, sweeping shots.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would punctuate the moments. Like if you think about, like for example, if you think about the moment where he gets sucked into the motel room.
Yep.
Right?
Chainsaw scene.
The chainsaw scene. The quick hit that might come to your memory is the guy starting to use the chainsaw, his partner breaking in the door, shooting, the people running, you know, Pacino going after him, shooting him in the street, loud and brash. That whole sequence starts with him leaving Manolo in the car. They go up, they do this whole mammoth-like back and forth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He goes, well, maybe you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, he's like, well, come on in, man. He's like, well, maybe I don't feel like coming in. Maybe I'll just stand by the door. Right? And the woman sitting on the bed and the noise on the TV. And then you cut to Manolo trying to put his hand in the woman's bikini.
Yeah.
And then you cut back and then boom, she pulls the gun. The other guy comes out. Now they're chaining up Scarface's friend.
Yeah.
You know, they've got him up against the wall. You know, that sequence is damn near 10 minutes long.
It's so good,
right?
too.
But what we remember, choppy.
Yep. Speaking of
the trailers.
Speaking of, I was thinking this the other day, because sometimes I go into these weird things where I was like, and I do it for myself, where I'm like, top 5 actors alive right now, or you know, top 5 that aren't around anymore. I do these weird things in my head. And I was thinking, film for film, like catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a better catalog than Al Pacino as an actor? Like literally on consistency level. Don't talk about longevity of it. Like just consistency film wise.
Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, I disagree.
Okay.
Put Dustin Hoffman's 5 best movies against Al Pacino's 5 best movies. Go.
All right, you pull up Pacino. I'm going to pull up Dustin Hoffman.
I could tell you Pacino's 5 best movies.
Okay.
For me, but let me do it for the masses first. For the masses, they're going to say Godfather 2 because you can't really say Godfather 1 because Godfather 2 is really his movie, right? So I'm going to say that.
Okay.
I'm going to say Scarface, just because it's iconic, like it's hard to get away from that.
Okay.
For me, not for the masses, I'm going to say the Scarecrow, but I can't say that because I don't think a lot of people have probably seen it.
Okay, but I'm here.
But definitely, easily his best performance, right?
Okay.
Amazing. Obviously, with John Casale,
Dog Day.
Dog Day.
Yeah.
The greatest, right?
Yeah.
An amazing performance. So now I'm on 3 because I'm not going to count Scarecrow.
Okay.
For me as a kid, for how I grew up, Carlito's Way was like it. Like for me. Now I know it's not his best movie, but it really was everything for me. Just because it was that was the genre for me. That was everything. Okay. I don't know if I'll put it in there either. Serpico, I think I'm a little whatever about. I think that a lot of people give it a lot of credit. I think it's a great film. Hold up. I don't want to lose my brain. Hold up.
There's no way you can't count Serpico as one of his best performances.
So you're saying that even for the masses, they would count that as one of his best performances.
Yeah, but we ain't talking about the masses. We talking about us right now.
Okay.
There's no way.
Okay. I'll put it in there. For me, I would never put Scent of a Woman in there, even though he went bananas with that character. He went way up and never came out of it.
That was the change. That was around the turn when he was like getting paid a lot of money.
Yep.
Give him the Pacino that they want, because he's an introvert.
I know nothing about him. This is the craziest thing. The only time I see him, he looks like an extra from a Twisted Sister video. He's wearing like all black. He's got like the chains. His hair is crazy.
Exactly.
I want to know how he operates on the daily. Like, what does he do all day? Because after Scent of a Woman, he changed a lot, as in the way his cadence of his voice went and kind of all that.
Right. The way he presented to the public. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, this is funny. I'm looking at, the stuff that he's been nominated for, and it's obviously Dick Tracy and stuff like that, because he was great in Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy's kind of an underrated movie, by the way.
Yeah. Hoffman's in it too. So be careful.
Hoffman's in it too.
Big Boy did it.
Okay. So I'm going to say,
so give me your 5. Give me your 5. Yes.
Dog Day. Godfather. Serpico.
Yeah.
Scarface. And Carlito's Way for me. Just because I want to say the Scarecrow, just because it's me and you talking, I'll get rid of Carlito's Way and I'll say Scarecrow.
Okay. So you're talking about, you had to cover his entire career.
I could put Angels. I could put Angels in America in there. I could put his new stuff in there.
No, I'm saying but you had to go his entire career.
For sure.
I'm gonna give you Hoffman's first 10 years. The Graduate, Midnight Cowboy,
amazing.
Little Big Man, Lenny.
Great, underrated, great. A lot of people don't know it.
If you don't want Little Big Man in there, I'll take Little Big Man out and I'll swap it for All the President's Men.
Amazing. Great replacement.
Marathon Man.
Yes.
Okay.
Tough for all.
79. I'm going to jump past the 10 years. Kramer versus Kramer.
Great.
Tootsie.
My favorite. Watch it all the time.
Death of a Salesman.
Pretty terrific. Do you know what he's great in, by the way?
I'm already giving you.
No. But no. Listen. I'm not going to deny that his films are great. I'm just saying that against them. Name a movie he has better than Godfather 2. Better than Godfather 2.
You don't
name Hoffman's performance that's better than Pacino in Godfather 2.
You don't consider Kramer versus Kramer an outstanding performance?
Not better than Godfather 2.
Okay.
No.
See, now here's the thing though. See, and I'm surprised that you would do this as an actor.
Go ahead.
You're going about tone versus performance. Because here's the thing.
Yeah. Dustin
was always the everyman.
Correct.
Right? That performance, you're like,
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I think that I forget the movie. I understand that the movie is so great that it elevates every single person in it, even people who aren't great actors. Godfather, the material elevated everybody, which is a rarity, because I've said that badly done movies can take great actors and make them almost worse, right? And then good actors can make shitty movies good, like better. Right. It kind of doesn't work out well for the actor in a way. I thought that if I look at that performance, and this is what I look at with actors, and I look at it with myself, and it's probably why I'm having a harder time watching myself, is that patience. I look at patience in an actor. Al Pacino does a turn from 1 to 2 that is so incredible as a character. The layers that you go through in life that we can only think of in our own life, like the microcosm of our own lives of how much we change. He changed so dramatically that his patience in part 2, just the way he looked at people, the way he moved his hands and the way he stood and responded. And then he earned when he got mad. So until when he got mad at Kay, when he would get angry, you believed it so much more because he never gave it away prior to that. And he had multiple times where he could have. When he caught Fredo in Vegas, he could have gave it away. He could have went nuts on him. He never did. He kept it cool, played it low. A lesser actor might have exploded. So then when he goes nuts on Kay about, like, if you take my kids, if you do this, but when he just has lost it, that moment is so earned because it's not contained anymore. And he plays such a contained performance. I guess for me, I respect that so much because he's so patient. I'm not saying that Dustin wasn't in Kramer versus Kramer. I'm saying that performance is so special to me because of the patience. Denzel does it very well, that when he goes, he earns going. A lot of people just go the whole time.
Right. But see, here's my question though. And you know the answer to this. How do we know that wasn't in the cutting? How do we know that wasn't shaped? How do we know that wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So how many times have actors come out of movies that they've been in and go, why didn't they use that other scene?
Right. Why didn't they use the one where I was yelling and crying?
Yeah. No,
and listen, and we do that all the time as actors. We think we have been. I said this to someone the other day, and you get this as a director, writer, producer, showrunner. Everything that you do is the hardest thing for actors. And you and I used to have this battle back and forth on Sons, is that this is why this business sucks. let me just get into this for a second.
Right.
When you see I personally, I have a problem with award shows for a lot of reasons, right? But whatever that reasoning is, it changes all the time. I just have a problem with it. When they show award shows, they'll show a clip from a film, and it's usually someone yelling, crying at the highest elevated level of their emotion, right? And you go, oh, okay, right? But what about the rest of the performance? What about everything else that's going on? So because of that, actors get tricked into finding ways where they can do that because they think that's all the time. On the most basic conversation, right? And you will watch less than showrunners, less than directors sometimes go for that because they wrote it like that, or they think it should be there, even if it doesn't make sense in the scene. So the dance that you go back and forth is the actor's ego wants to cry or try or wants to get angry. And the writer sometimes is like, well, that's not where I did it. I did it over here, but it doesn't make sense to you as an artist or whatever. So this is why, and you and I have had this talk a bunch of times, why do I only love working with, and I don't get my wish a lot, is I'd wish I could only work with writer-directors. Because the director is, if he's the writer, it's his words. So again, that doesn't always be, that's not a safety net, because you can get a writer director who has that same belief. It's funny because the same thing we're talking about
just a second ago with social media can apply to our business and how we operate within it.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, the someone you and I both know who loves to come on set and and just do it up and go at a high pitch, and says, we're out of here in 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
Love him to death. Right.
Yeah.
But if you look at, there's a performance that he gave in his early part of his career that's very much in line with what you're saying. Patience, time, giving the scene its room.
Was it cut like that, or did he do it?
So it's the whole process. It's not just because let's say you work with a writer director and the producer's the bully.
Dealing with it right now on something.
Let's say you work with a great writer director and the studio comes in and says, yeah, but you know what? That one take is our trailer, and that trailer is, and the writer director's going, no, don't do that. It's the whole process that a movie has to survive.
Correct. And I think that this is something that a lot of people don't know. And I think it's very interesting. I think that if a lot of people, and they shouldn't want to know it.
But wait, let's get back to Pacino and Hoffman first. Okay. So again, what I'm saying is.
So I'm taking Godfather 2 as my first round draft pick. That's my number one. Even though I'd put Scarecrow above it, but I'm not going to because a lot of people haven't seen it.
Right.
So you
just
think
I wouldn't say Straight Time.
Okay, so you think Kramer versus Kramer is a better performance than Godfather 2?
When that man gets on that stand and starts talking about his relationship with his kid, he's right up there with Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men.
What a scene.
Okay? But see, but not to cut you off, that Jack Nicholson scene is done. It's so made fun of, and so, like, when I say made fun of in a good way, it's so known that sometimes it's almost like Juicy from Biggie. When a song is so popular or a movie is so popular, you almost forget the brilliance of the scene of how good Jack Nicholson was in A Few Good Men. Yes. But now you tell me this, is that scene that Jack Nicholson pulls off masterfully in A Few Good Men better than the scene in Chinatown where he's in the barber's chair and the guy calls him out?
And he's much more contained.
And he's much more contained. And it's all about his embarrassment for being seen as a low-grade private eye.
And that's a really good point, right? Because then you could also talk about The Shining, where he's so contained in certain scenes and then goes completely the other way. I think that, yes, you just proved the point of him yelling and being whatever. We're looking at that as like, that's good acting.
And he only yells for the majority of that speech in A Few Good Men. He only yells once.
Yeah. He's so present.
But when he starts, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. That's very
even.
Right? So I'm saying, when you talk, listen, how many times can you watch The Godfather? 1 billion, and then say, I still didn't see that. Or, oh my God, I forgot how good that was. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure Francis Coppola would say, can you people watch some of my other movies, please?
Conversation. Should more people watch The Conversation?
More people should watch The Conversation just because The Conversation is absolutely brilliant, right? More, if you decide you don't want to watch One from the Heart, I get it. More people should watch not The Outsiders. What's the one that came in black and white afterward?
Yeah, I just actually watched
Rumblefish.
Rumblefish. Yeah.
Right? More people should watch Tucker, right? But when we land on something like what we're saying about social media, when we land on the thing that connects to what makes us us, we won't let it go. So if you want to argue, like for instance, if everything that you said about Al Pacino in The Godfather 2, right? I can say, all right, then what about Paul Newman in The Verdict?
Yeah, it's an incredible layered performance. The thing is, I lived with The Godfather more. It's more in my zone. People aren't talking about The Verdict all the time. There isn't The Verdict 1, 2, and 3. There isn't pizza places named after it. There isn't, right? It's always in my realm, The Godfather.
Yeah, it took over. It took over a part of your existence.
Correct.
And what makes this business, and what makes you get up in the morning and say, "I'm doing this."
Yes,
right. So when we judge, here's a way to the side. The argument between, and I'm not falling on any side, the argument between Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James, right?
Yeah, I got my side. I know.
But I'm just gonna introduce something that was introduced to me from Isaiah Thomas on TV one day. Okay. He said, if you truly want to judge LeBron James against these two guys, you have to understand that both of these guys, at the height of their careers, were coached by the greatest coach ever. And LeBron James's coaches will never break the top 20.
Not even close.
Right? So, as a hypothesis, a man who says, I'm just a passer, is now number 3 on the scoring list. Will be probably top 20 rebounds, top 20, if not top 10 assists, top 10 rebounds, assists, scoring. Yes. Yep. You'll probably be top 10 rebound. So the hypothesis, since this is all a conversation, the next question is, what if LeBron James for 5 to 7 years had been coached by Phil Jackson?
Yes, here and then you can also say, what if LeBron James had to play against the Celtics of the 80s and 90s and the Pistons?
Okay, but even Michael Jordan wasn't successful against the 80s Celtics and the Pistons, right? But here's the thing. I'm not even asking for an answer. I'm just going to tell you the response that I get whenever I bring that question up. Yeah, but he didn't. Now,
that's silly. That's a way to cut it off.
Here's what I think is hilarious. We're talking about a hypothetical conversation to begin with.
That's right.
Right? So if you want to say, is Kobe better than Michael Jordan, you're still going to go into stats, which aren't going to necessarily prove the case. Jordan shot damn near 49.1% his entire career, blah, 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 right? But people will tell you Kobe was a more dynamic scorer, a better ball handler. All of the stuff that came off of, just like Jordan was the descendant of the Dr. J's of the world. Mm-hmm. But the second I say, now introduce this, consistently people go, nope, doesn't make any sense.
Right, because and this goes back to what we were saying about social media and really life in general. If it doesn't feed your what the point you're trying to get across, you dismiss it.
You dismiss it immediately.
We dismiss everything that doesn't get our point across. And the thing is, I think that the one thing that I've always, I loved about you and I've always told you is not just do you probably listen more than most, which I guess is an incredible quality that a writer has to have, but you also try to see all sides on things, right? A lot of people, I've noticed this more and more, are waiting to speak and they've already have the answers in their head, right? I had somebody, this happens to me a lot. I think it's probably because maybe I'm a nice person. I don't know. People will write me a text. Mm-hmm. Hey man, miss you. Or hey man, what's up? And cool. Hope you're well, man. Hope everybody's all good. Fam's all good, bubble.
I guess you don't miss me.
No, then it'll be like a 20 text thing about everything that's bad in their life. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know how to respond to that. So you were basically, when you came in with that, what's up, miss you, whatever, you were setting me up. You set me up to drop everything on me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I get it. Not once in that did you ask about me. I get it. I understand the way it is, especially a lot of the business that we're in and the egos that people have. And, you know, a lot of people need to be seen and felt and coddled and whatever.
Right.
I think it's so interesting because ultimately they don't care what I have to say. They just need a body. They just need like someone to respond in a way. This is so interesting to me, especially in the world we're living in now. I don't have all the answers to anything. All I know is that I listen to shit and I try to like give an opinion, right? Of if someone asks me, but if you don't ask me, I'm not giving you my fucking opinion. I'm just telling you whatever. So someone told me recently, like, you know, obviously everything's become political, right? Political this, political that, everything, whatever. Right. And I said, we're in a war between smart people and stupid people. And what I mean by that is that people just aren't researching anything, right? I don't care what your politics are. I have friends on every side of the fence, people who aren't political, people who are super conservative, people who are super liberal, right? Mm. What I try to get to people is what kind of world do you want to live in? And then like do that, right? Like what kind of world do you want to live in? The one thing that I know for sure is I can't even say the last couple of years because you and I are smart. Forever, things have been fucked up. Forever. Forever.
Right.
Sometimes more fucked up than others, sometimes less fucked up than others, but always fucked up. The baseline is fucked up.
Right.
I think that it's super interesting that people give so much energy towards certain things without studying the entire thing, if that makes sense.
Right.
Probably doesn't.
It does. But here's two things. I'm going to go back and come forward. So the problem is we forget when we're talking to a person, we're not talking to that person. We're talking to that person's entire history. Mm. Whether they are cognizant of it or not. Right. You know, people call me big man.
Yeah.
You know, what's up, big man?
Quite. How tall are you?
6'4", 300. Right.
Okay. I didn't ask for the weight, but I'm glad you gave it.
Yeah. But I'm because I'm going to give you the context. Okay. You can say, "What up, big man?" to someone my height and size, and not give it the thought beyond I'm 5'7" or I'm 130 pounds. So it could go either way, right? 5'7", 290 will say, "What up, big man?"
Yep.
5'10", 140 will say, "What up, big man?" It's both coming from their internal perspectives, who they are, who they've been, how they've been viewed. Right? So when we have conversations, we because it's too much thought. Again, going back to marketing is about, hey, let's make it simple for you.
Efficiency.
You know, use pledge. Well, why do you use pledge? My mama used pledge. Why do you use
your face in the wood? You could shine it and see yourself.
Right? Why do you use Clorox? My grandmama used Clorox.
That's right.
That's good enough for people. People don't understand the
or even the religious way of it. Why? Because Jesus said. Because this person said.
But Jesus didn't say it to them. Jesus said it to 70 other people before they got to them.
Yeah.
Right? If and because are two of the most dangerous words in this business.
Oof.
In this life, right? When you ask your parent why they're doing something, they go, because. Or if they tell you to do something, because I told you to. So again, simplify, right? So let's say you're talking to someone, let's say if you call me big man, and when I was a child, my issues were with weight, and someone calls me big man 20 plus years later, and I turn around and just go to town on them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to town on them.
I've seen it happen with Mona.
Okay, exactly. He's not going crazy in the moment. He's regurgitating 20 plus years. So when we say smart people and stupid people who heard you say that on this podcast immediately will start to think about their education, their circumstances.
That's right.
Whether they graduated from college or not, they'll stop listening to what the rest of it was, and they'll have to make a personal adjustment to see which side they fall on, right? Because the second thing you talk to when you talk to someone is not just their history, but you talk to their ego.
And see, what's funny is when I say smart and stupid people, I'm a dumbass. Like in every way. Like I didn't even realize till later in life that I was like, I don't want to say waste because I never wasted. I spent so much of my life thinking about the streets and surviving and thinking about how to make money and that it was never about education. And then all of a sudden, however many years ago now it is, I went, wait a second, I don't know anything about this, or I don't know anything about that part of history. I don't know anything about this business. And what I want to do is I want to learn everything. So when I say smart and stupid people, I mean that we have now come to a place where I have people tell me stuff. Mm-hmm. And I say, but that's not true. And they go, it is. And I go, but it's not. And I go, where did you hear that? And they're like, I read it on this. And I go, well, let me tell you why it's not true. And it's da 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 da. So like you said, then they go, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, but then you shouldn't have said it if you didn't know it. Right. But again, they didn't say it. Yeah, but
again, the second you say you shouldn't have said it if you didn't know it, you're attacking their ego.
I know.
And people, like for instance, people think that the word ego has a bad connotation.
I know.
Like, oh, you've got an ego. An ego has no measure. You can have a good ego, you can have a bad ego. It's what comes along with, it's the way a human being is defines their ego.
What if you called it like self-belief?
Okay. You can call it that, but then they'll say you're being, what are you going to tell me to do next? Yoga? Right. And then you go, yes. Right? But the thing, like for instance, when you say if someone says, hey, I miss you, because you know it's a setup.
I know it's a setup.
The setup happens because you write back, hey, I'm cool. Hope you're well. A, you didn't answer the emotional need. B, you hope you're well now leaves the door open for me to say, right? Like one question that I never answer directly is, what are you up to? If I haven't seen somebody in a long time, they go, yo, so what are you up to? I said, work. So how are you? That's always the first question. It's something that I had to learn, but it's always the first question that I ask of someone before I say, what are you doing? Because whatever they're doing does not determine how they are in the larger sense of things. Right. They could be doing something that's awesome and feel like shit. They could be doing something that's absolutely nonsensical and feel great. But everything is about value judgment. Every time we open our mouths now, we either have to have an answer. You're talking this business. When somebody says something to you, don't just sit there, have an answer. And I go, no, I'd rather just sit there. Fucks up the game.
That in itself is a rarity, right? Because as creatures of people problem solving, whatever, we want to always have the answer, right? What I'm learning in what you just said is I'm learning that I don't need to have the answer, and I don't need to understand everything. right? I can only speak from my personal opinion. So I think that what I've gravitated towards, the people that I gravitate towards in life, the people that I enjoy being around, are not the people who have all the answers, but they're the people who are willing to discuss to try to find the answers to whatever it is we're talking about in that moment, right? That is so rare nowadays, right? Because everybody's on a soapbox, everybody, right? And I personally have now tried to find it where I'm just like, man, like you say about ego. Ego's a really tricky thing that I talk about a lot. It's taken me a long time to believe in myself. When you and I first started meeting, even on the show, on Sons, that was a really hard atmosphere to have abundance of confidence, because you were walking on a tightrope at all times, right? At every moment. It was whatever words you want to use. You can use hostile, you can use this, you can use that. It was just a tricky situation because there were a lot of emotions. And what was proven is that any moment things can change. Any moment. You could be gone. You could be gone and you don't even know what it could be for. Right. Could be you took the extra sweet potato at Crafty and it's like, what happened? What happened? Oh, it's over.
Oh, that was you who took the extra sweet.
I knew I shouldn't have did that. But it was like, those are the things that you worried about because you watched it happen from the beginning. So because of that, when I came into Luke Cage, I always tell this story. I came into Luke Cage like all my dogs are rescues, right? Well, I've one left. I lost two, but my dogs, when I first rescued them or found them, or it took me like a long time to get them to not act like street dogs or kennel dogs or whatever you want to call it. When I went to Luke Cage, I'll never forget. I was in my dressing room and somebody came and like knocked and they were like, "Hey, we're going to get you to make up a little early if that's okay." I said, all right, I'll be there. Just calm down. Everybody just take it easy. And I was like, man, what is going on? I'm like this. And somebody we know, mutual friend, came up and said, "Hey, this isn't your old show. It's different here. Chill out, take it easy." And what I realized is that my lens was broken, right? I was looking at things wrong and I had to kind of adjust and see things. What I've come to find out, especially now living in Texas, especially, looking at things, is that not everybody's like me, and thank God they're not. Not everybody has the same beliefs. Not everybody wants what I want. And I've now listened. I've taken more, like you said, where I go back and go, let me see why this person doesn't like to travel. Let me see why this person isn't so into their work. Let me see why this person is into fantasy football. I don't play fantasy football. People love it. Let me see why this person golfs 5 hours a day. Seems like a fucking waste of time to me, but man, they love it. That's okay.
Right.
I have no judgment in that.
Right.
It took me forever to be like that because I had to literally sit back and go, so in our business where people change radically from when you see them, like you can meet somebody and they're into yoga, crazy yoga, and then they're into Peloton, and then they're climbing Kilimanjaro, and they're like, every time you meet them, they're on some kind of different mission, all because they have not decided who they are.
Well, because they haven't decided who they are not given a chance to decide who they are. We are all undereducated in the art of being ourselves.
Mental health, too.
Yeah. And like in my community, when you would mention mental health, people would go, "Man, what's up with all of that? You going over there trying to listen to those people."
Hocus pocus.
Exactly. And would be at the fringe of breaking, right? But that's all of us. And when like when you say, let me dig in to see why, well, two things are going to happen. Are you going to take the true time to dig in? And B, is the person going to let you in, right? And since the business we're in, because I want to talk about the word business in show business for a second. The business that we're in is about the 2-minute phone call, the quick check-in, but not the commitment, when it's not a committed check-in, or things aren't going well for me, right? When things aren't going well for the person, the rest of it doesn't matter. How the other person's doing doesn't matter. And then, people will argue that, and they'll go, no, I check in on my friends all the time. I love that song by Royce the 5'9", check in on your strong friend.
Yeah.
Right? But
he's top 5 for me right now, but go ahead.
He's great.
Killer.
But here's the thing that we all suffer from. We all have to value, we all have to judge something. We all have to judge something. And when it doesn't align, when something doesn't align with how we feel, we have to understand, this is the part that still needs to be developed. We have to understand that it doesn't have anything to do with us, right? I get on YouTube and I watch, I watch Arri cameras versus Red cameras versus Canon, and see people battle like it's Democrats versus Independents versus Republicans.
Yeah.
And then some agnostic person will come in and go, use whatever camera works, whatever camera's in front of you, tell the story, which throws the Red people into a tizzy and the Arri people in. Roger Deakins uses Arri and only uses Arri.
Proving their point.
The Red people will come along and say, well, David Fincher only uses Red. He's committed to Red. And then someone else will go, hey, the best way to shoot a documentary is Canon camera. And then you'll go Nike, Adidas, Converse before they were bought by. It's like all of these things come together to provide your identity, right? And the worst part is we all think it's original thought.
And it's not. It all comes from somewhere.
It all comes from people who preceded you. And how you color it might make it unique, but the word original, again, doesn't go to originality. It goes to ego. It goes to id, self-belief, right? And one of my favorite books is a book called The Sports Writer, written by Richard Ford. And it's about this sports writer who gets super successful, I think, off of a book of essays. And so he gets a publishing contract to write his first book, puts the paper in his typewriter, starts to type on the first page, can't come up with anything, throws it away, puts another piece of paper, and realizes he has absolutely nothing to say. And the rest of the book deals with him unpacking his life, himself, because he realizes he has nothing to say. And people think that they're valueless if they don't have something to say. Not if I live my life a certain way, I influence my children, I influence my neighbors, I influence the people around me. Again, marketing makes you feel small.
Yeah.
And people don't, but here's the thing. People don't understand that they're marketed to every moment of the day.
Every second.
Right? How dare you wear a Men's Warehouse suit?
How dare you?
How dare you wear your cap? The way you have your baseball cap on. When I was 11 years old, I was walking down the street. I was going to the park. My brother's best friend lived down the street from us. Mr. Dumas said, hey, why do you have your hat on backwards? And I went, I don't know. I see people wear their hat on. They don't wear your hat on backwards. That's not the look of a smart young man. Again, going to those words, you use those words. People, when they get into battles, and everything is political, When people get into battles, the first thing that they want to do is condescend, name, demean, right? If I don't like what you're saying, if I'm bigger than you, I go, yo, little man, you'll get your ass busted. I immediately place you. if I'm richer than you, wait, are you driving that Hyundai? Right? So we take words and we pedestal ourselves or we tear down someone else. So he said to me, I don't ever want to see you wearing a hat backwards again. Now, this is an adult, right? As I got older, because I hated his son. His son was my best friend's brother. I said that. When you say unpack, I'm going to give you an unpacking. I don't know how to swim. You know why I don't know how to swim? Because my brother used to take me to the beach with him and his friends. And he would say, now wrap me up because we're going into the water. And we would walk out into the water and he would go, uh-oh, we're going to fall. Oh my God. I don't know. I can't feel the bottom of it. And it would just crack me up, right? Well, one day we go out with his best friend. And his best friend swims up behind us, grabs me, pulls me away from my brother, keeps swimming, and lets me go. Right? And I went underwater. I don't know if it was 10 seconds, 20 seconds, or whatever. It felt like a lifetime. I couldn't see because I was blind as a bat as a kid. I'm at this guy's mercy. And it terrified me.
Trauma.
Right? I have tried to take swimming lessons for maybe 3 or 4 times. I tried to swim with my kids. You know, I used to get anxious when my kids would go near water. When that dude died, I was like, oh, I've been carrying this dude in my ego satchel for my life. Mm-hmm. Right? So when we start talking about care and concern and mental health and what makes the world better and why certain people don't give a damn about climate change, why people care or don't care about certain things, it's not them responding in the moment. When we get on social media and we go, I can't believe he said something like that, or I can't believe she believes that, or whatever. If that person's 46, you're talking about maybe 35 years of their lives that led them to believe what they're regurgitating. Not what is, what they've heard. Mm-hmm. And then other people will say, well, the only way you can learn something is if you learn it from other people. Yes, you're absolutely right. But then what you have to do is test it. Like, I love people who question the Bible.
How could you not?
It doesn't mean you're not a Christian, doesn't mean you're not a follower, doesn't mean your faith isn't. But what's interesting is to see the people who go, you can't question God. And I say to them, well, wait a minute. So in the big man theory, because there ain't no bigger man than the big man.
Nope.
Why does he need you to protect him? Why
can't you question him?
And why can't you ask him a question?
Silly.
Right? Why are you down my throat because I'm saying, hey, is this really true? But again, when I ask a question, or when someone asks a question, or when someone says, hey, let's pull this apart, or you saying that's not really true, because if you look at this, and this, and this, and this, you're questioning their existence. You're questioning their values. You're questioning their
ego,
trauma.
To their ego and their trauma.
Right? So nothing is just, I'm just asking a question. No, you're not just asking the question, because you don't know how I'm going to respond. You don't understand what's going on in my life because the marketing says, hey, you good? Yeah, man, just doing what I do. You know what I'm saying? Just blah, 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 yada, yada, becomes, wait, he killed himself? Mm-hmm. Seemed fine. Right? Even our conversations don't sit on 2-word answers, where most conversations sit on 2-word answers. Sorry, I'm running off. Go.
No. And I think that what you're saying is so interesting, because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and probably why I do this show, why I do this podcast is I found it so refreshing, and I know this has been said by 100 different, millions probably podcasts or whatever, is that having long form conversations, just like a conversation, like, hey, let's unwrap something here. Like, let's talk about it. Let's just have like a conversation. Let's talk about the goods, the bads. Let's try to leave egos out of this. Let's try to leave, like, I know there's trauma. There's all this stuff that we've come from. And I think that for me, in anything I do is like, what I don't know, I don't know. Right. I'm not going to pretend that I don't know, that I know something that I don't know. I've lost that part of my ego. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be right. I hope I am. I'm going to gamble. Right. I hope I'm right. I hope I am. But I'm okay not being right. Right. So I see a lot.
I tell my kids, I don't know all the time.
I don't know. Again, let's try to figure it out together. But I don't know it. So when I go into acting, when I go into a scene, like especially if I'm working with a director or writer who's been working on this project for years, I go, hey, like I'm doing it on this new movie I'm about to start. I go, hey, to the director, I said, hey, do me a favor. Send me an email. How have you always pictured this character in your head? He's like a director writer. I said, just send me like whatever, random. Don't have to be concise. Like, just put a bunch of different random thoughts on the screen and just let me take a look at it, because you've been sitting with this guy for however many years, I don't even know, right? That you've been working on this. Send it to me and then let's discuss it, right? That's me wanting to understand, my thirst for knowledge. I also have an empathic behavior where I want to make him happy, right? So I want this to go the right way for all of us. Now, that doesn't happen a lot, right? Because a lot of people come in and just go, you don't know shit. I know everything. Shut the fuck up. This is what's happening. This is what's going on. And not just in creative, in work, in everything, right? What I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to show my two young sons is like, it's okay to not have all the answers, like you just said, and it's okay to learn to figure it out. But at the same time, that's not how everyone else is. Right. My 5-year-old will tell me a lot, like, why is this kid so mean? And I said, and I'm funny because my wife gets mad. I go, his parents are probably terrible fucking people. Right. And
don't say that.
No, but I always say that, but like I say it, my wife gets mad at me, but I'm like, it's his parents. They're awful. Right. And he's 5 and he's like, tell me about that. But the thing is that that's where all products of our environment. You said something that was great, which is like, we're now talking to the person, right? So with social media, you've really removed a whole nother thing, right? Because now you're really not talking to the person. You're talking to the avatar and the words of what they said. Right.
You're not hearing tone. You're not hearing all of that stuff.
You're not hearing anything. And then what we try to do in movies is and documentaries and entertainment in general is we try to add like a tone of like authenticity and real life into whatever that character is and this and that. And even then, if the other person on screen isn't right, or if it's cut wrong, or if it's this, that tone might not come across the way we want. Right. So where is the truth? And I've said that for me, where I feel the most honest with myself, it's crazy. In the shower, like I'm just chilling and I'm like, oh, there it is. There's everything I want to think about. I'm a runner. So when I'm running, I hear it like in my head. Right. Or right before I fall asleep, there's like this moment of like pure clarity where I'm like, oh, there it is. Remember that. And then like I fall asleep. Right. I think that what's driving everybody nuts, especially in this time with, COVID and everything that's going on and all this great stuff that's happening, is that a lot of people are having a hard time talking to themselves, finding out what they really want or what they believe. And they're, like you said, they're attaching themselves on.
You're saying that this just started?
No, it's been like that forever.
Okay.
You brought up the Bible. You bring up the Bible. You bring up that if you go back to Mesopotamia, if you go back to any time, the Sumerians, everybody's been looking to the sky or looking for somewhere else for something because they don't want to deal with this. Right. I don't know why people are so scared to go into their mind and talk about certain things and to address certain things. And I think that you said
because
something.
Because we're not given the power to do that.
Why?
Listen, who was I? Was it Guy Kawasaki? I think it was. I go down these, I go down these YouTube rabbit holes.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
Me too.
And every now and then somebody will say something and I'll go, yeah, right? And then 3 days later, I'll forget.
That's like me with Alan Watts. Alan Watts. Go down an Alan Watts rabbit hole. That's the crazy one. Go ahead.
There has to be levels, right? I don't want to cut my grass. Let's just say I don't want to cut my grass, right? So I'm going to hire a guy who does landscape. And then one day somebody says, he knocks on the door and he goes, "Hey, I actually, acquired, amassed enough money to go and start the business I really want to start." If the first thing that you don't think of is, then who's going to cut my grass?
That's the first thing you think of.
Right? And instead of, okay, well, if one person cut my grass, then I can go find somebody else to go.
Or how about good for you? That's amazing that you say that.
Exactly, right? That's incredible. That's so great. So, but it works all ways. I have a thing that I do just to kind of keep my head, and this is going to sound weird, but every now and then I will take a couple of $100 out of the bag. I'll give it away.
Interesting.
Right? I'll be at a restaurant and I'll see who, again, judgment, I'll see who I think is working hardest, or, if they're cleaning up, and then I'll just go, "That's for you." Immediately they think it's a joke, or hopefully the big man ain't asking for a sexual favor or whatever's absolutely bananas, because there's no reason that somebody should just walk up to me and give me $100.
No.
Right?
Nobody would think that.
But here's how I look at it. I can't tell you everything that I did right to end up having the career that I've had. I can tell you everything that I've done that's wrong that could have kept me from having the career that I've had. But grace, the universe, has decided, let's help this fool out. And it's not anything that I can say, I demand this or I deserve this. It just, things come along, right? Mm-hmm. So in that way, I look at that money as, the $100 may not mean the $100, because what's the $100 really going to do in this place and time? It'll pay for something. It won't pay for everything. But what I hope that it opens in people that receive it is like, wait, there's still good people out there. And I don't necessarily have to jump through hoops to be seen as a person worthy. That's the thing. When you talk about people going inside and having conversations with themselves, they do. They just have the unworthy conversations. They just have the conversations about why nothing's going their way, right? And this is an extreme example, but like the Charlottesville guys, the Tiki Torch guys, yeah. You will not replace us. They named everybody but the people who run the companies, and the people who run the companies look exactly like them. Mm-hmm. Right? So then it becomes a bigger question. Why are you on the college grounds instead of in front of the guy who runs Coca-Cola, the CEO's house, right? Why are you tearing up Watts instead of coming to Beverly Hills? All of this stuff has not a circuit breaker. Having a conversation with yourself about things that are true is difficult because everybody says There's objectivity. There's the only thing that you can put the gaze of objectivity on are empirical things. If you don't eat, you will die. If you don't drink liquids, you will dehydrate. But look at all the people who won't drink water. Right? Right? Even though we know it's the truth.
That's my mom all the time. Yeah.
So I think what we have to do is like, we have to kind of like put an asterisk by the word objectivity, because everything is subjective, right? The truth that you have in the shower, you might call me and go, yo, E equals MC squared. Yes. Okay. How did that get proven? Well, science, math, blah, 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 yada, yada. You might call me and go, I think we need to buy Apple stock. Well, that ain't what my people are telling me. It immediately becomes subjective.
That's right.
Right? So, but we don't want to say that when we have conversations, they are at most subjective. They are always opinions.
And what people are trying to do is find their opinion, theirs, and then group themselves around people who have similar opinions. So they feel stronger in their opinion because it's more validation that their opinion is right. When they go, look, everybody thinks the same as me, so we must all be right. Right.
Right. So here are two examples. Malcolm X had an opinion that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was God-made man. Then
changed it.
Things changed.
And
he was like, yo, everything that I thought, right? Last night on Camus Bell's show, United Shades of America, he sat with 4 former white supremacists. All of them were of an opinion, and then it changed, right?
That's right.
And the one that, of course, connected to me the most, this guy said, I think he was a Grand Dragon of the Klan. And he said that I was raised by a black woman. And I got out, and he said, and I went to her house, and she had not only open arms, but an open heart. And she died when she was 103. And I was glad that I was able to sit with her before she died, and she could see that I changed. That's not objective. Because the objective opinion is you should never have gone down that road in the first place, right? The truth is 100 different things. One of the guys said, we always went for the troubled kids. You can turn their minds.
That's the same thing with gangs. That's the same thing with anything.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing with recruitment. It's the same thing with our business. It's the Me Too's and the assistants that are coming out and the people who are on set saying that they have been verbally brutalized. All of that stuff is about, but this is the truth is this is the path you have to take to get where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's subjective.
Oh man, I said this, probably more in private than ever public, but like when I first got in, the biggest trick for me, and again, this is in like 2000, was I came from one way of life and I came into another way of life. And when I was in Hollywood in the beginning, what I heard a lot of is, hey man, it's just the way it is. And I was like, oh, word? Like that's how people like do that? Like the way things were happening, like as in if you can call it abuse, or the way that people would, talk to you, or promises they would make, or ways that, and they're like, man, that's just this business. And I was
that's just how people be.
That's a fucked up business. I was thinking like, this is fucked up. And then what happened is then you get in these scenarios of power.
Marketing. That's just how it is.
That's just how it is. And that's fucking, and I would sit there on set, and I'll never forget, and this was this weird moment I had. This is back in the day, I was doing this commercial, this Nissan commercial. I'll never forget it. And it was super hot. It was in the summer, early in the day. And I legitimately was shooting on this like multi-car garage. And I had never, I was young in the game. And this first AD, I could tell right away I had problems with him, like right away. But I'm low man on the totem pole. There was like 5 guys in the commercial. Everybody had a few lines, whatever. There was probably 100 extras in the commercial. Mm-hmm. Everybody was stationed down on this like 3rd floor of this parking garage. And then the filming was on the roof. Mm-hmm. And this guy, I could tell right away we weren't vibing. He wasn't a good person. And I already had a problem, but couldn't do anything. And he came down and he told all the extras, you don't move, you don't this. It was back in the day when they would scream at extras, do this. And I was like, man, I don't know how long I could hold out. So they called us up to set. I think back then I was still like smoking cigarettes or something. I was outside and they called me in and I was, oh man, I got to get up to set. You know, again, there's 5 actors in the commercial, like actors who actually speak. And I ran up to the garage. And as I was coming out, I guess they were filming. And this dude didn't see it was me and started laying into the person at the door because he was afar, who was me. Mm-hmm. And I had enough. Ran up, immediately grabbed him by the throat, threw him against the wall, just lost it. I lost my mind, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, and I was like, you are not allowed to talk to people like this. Like I like lost it. Mm-hmm. You cannot. And the kid just went white. Like he was just like, oh my God. And he was already pretty white. He went whiter and he was just like, he like lost he didn't know what to do because no one had confronted him on his bad behavior ever. Mm-hmm. And I remember that moment and I said, you can't talk to these people downstairs. You know how much money they're making? Like $50 to be here and this and that. And it's hot and it's this. And I like lost it. And I remember I'm going to have a tough time in this business because this behavior that goes on here. And believe me, it got way worse as I got on. And then you flip that switch where you gain a little power and it doesn't happen anymore. Sure. But I watched it and the whole business was in like this microcosm of like these things were allowed. And what I associated to now that I'm older is any business where people are in power, any business. By the way, that business can be a country. That business can be the prison system. That business can be corporations. That business could be a family where the husband is the one out work. Anybody who thinks they have the power, misuse of power is one of the most insidious, nefarious things that I've ever seen in my life. And I'm so aware of it now, watching people and how they dictate. And I think that in our business that we're in, when people say, I'm surprised that people are surprised because it's not just been like this in this business forever. It's been like this in every business forever. Right. And it's fascinating, man. It's fascinating to watch human behavior. So these people, I'm sure in their own way, think they're right.
Right. But this goes back to the Kawasaki thing that I was trying to remember. Businesses need people who won't do a lot of thought, who won't engage in thought, because I need my employees. So if I meet their needs, but they're not thinking their way through the situation, I don't ever have to worry about them leaving. And if they leave, I can just find another person just like them, slot them in, right?
As long as they don't question.
As long as they don't question, right? Because entrepreneurship is about questioning.
Everything.
At all times, even if it's just to satiate your curiosity.
Anything.
Right? But what usually happens when the entrepreneur decides to become an entrepreneur? They know that they're about to go a road alone. Right? So this is what I was coming around to with the word business when it comes to show business. They have gotten the creatives to be afraid enough of the business that they don't question.
Yep.
Your agent says, don't worry about the contract. I'll read it. You know, I'm going to take good care of you. You know, I'm going to make sure, Right? I was like, no. Mm-hmm. I'm reading this thing and I don't care what I don't understand. Because if I don't understand it, I'm going to ask questions. Right? I think that it's interesting that they tell you, not to start a corporation as a writer. They go, your first couple of years, you don't need a corporation. You're trying to figure it out. Blah, blah, blah. Your first couple of years, contracts are standard, so you don't really need a lawyer. Blah, 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 blah. Yo, my lawyer will tell you. I'll call him and go, hey, so subsection da-da-da-da-da-da. Explain this to me. Right? In earlier agents that I had, they would hit me with, and it's going to be this kind of deal and blah, 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 and you're going to get this amount and I would go, really? That's interesting because this same company paid someone else this. Yeah. Dead silence. Yeah. Right? Why are you doing their version of that's the way it is why are you doing our job? What I hear, because I do this all the time, is don't concern yourself with others. Exactly. Don't concern yourself with other people. Another version of that's just the way it is. That's right. What they don't want you to do is acquire enough knowledge where you question them, where they have to answer those questions. So I tell people all the time in this business, if you run away from the word business, you're not going to have a career that makes you feel good on the end of it. That's right. Because you left it in so many others' hands. That's right. Secondly, with writers, I always make writers hold up their hands. And I go, what are those? A smart ass goes, oh, it's my hands. And I go, no, it's your business. Your brain and your hands make you the commodity. Are you just going to shove your money in the bank and leave it there and hope that somebody's going to do something with it? Or are you going to try to learn enough that you can have an educated conversation about your money? Then why are you not learning to have an educated conversation about your business? That word, this business has set up that word to be anathema to the creatives. And creatives love to say it. I don't want to talk about that. I leave that to my business manager. I don't want to talk about that. I leave that to my agent. Oh, I don't know about that. My agent deals with that, or I don't know about that. And those people think, okay, so like you said, you and I have been in this business around the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. When people bitch and moan about their careers, then they bitch and moan about their agents or their managers or their lawyers or their whatever, or their relationships. Or, I don't like talking to executives. Why not? Well, they're on that side. Bullshit. Who made it a side? There's no sides. You're all doing the same thing. We're all on the same side. We're all trying to make a product. That's the other thing, that we all want to believe that this is all magical. Yep. And it's all like the leprechauns. Yep. It's not fairy dust, it's sawdust. That's what this entire business is. That's what every business is. It looks like fairy dust to the people who want to get in, just like it did to us. When we used to grow up and watch movies, oh my God. And still to this time, like somebody will get something, or somebody will be put in a position. I'll be like, man, this person ain't shit. Yeah. Like, how did they get? Exactly. It still looks like that, even being in it. But they're not the hermits that we are. They're not so you know what I'm saying? So like you said, you just said exactly why people don't have conversations with themselves to the level that you asked, because you think you've done enough. Yeah. I don't think about that. No, you do have to think about that. And when we get to a place where we start telling people, Eve got kicked out of Eden because she ate from the tree of knowledge. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. What is the tree of knowledge is scary as shit to people, the more you know. The more you know. But if you are trying to have, like, I truly believe, and you know I'm always telling you that I'm going to retire. Yeah. I truly believe that I got to a point where I went from, well, dear Lord, if you put this on my heart, why won't you give me this? And then I realized maybe the Lord didn't put it on my heart. The television did. And, you know, and because
marketing,
right? Because I was a latchkey kid and I saw Dick Van Dyke say he wanted to be a sitcom writer, I was like, well, what is this writing thing? And wait, they get to, oh, there are people behind. There you go. I want that, right? Though the Dick Van Dyke Show and the end of Cooley High, when what's his name? Glenn Turman.
Yeah, who we work with.
Pours the liquor out on Cochise's grave. Yeah. The Four Tops start playing. He takes off running. Freeze frame. It says he went off to become a screenwriter. That
changed.
And the Dick Van Dyke Show, it gave me the purpose. I want to tell stories in Hollywood, like these people on
What
TV.
What if you never watched Cooley High?
If I had never watched Cooley High and I'd never watched Dick Van Dyke, I would have been a singer. Because Michael Jackson was huge in my...
That's right.
Right? So, you could sing. You could... And then some people will say, well, whatever it was you chose to create. Well, guess what? Being an architect is creative. Being a car designer is creative. It's all creative.
Construction, everything's creative.
But here's what the people at the top of the studios or the Ford Motor Company or, you know, the greatest design firm in Memphis don't want. They don't want a bunch of people who are questioning them. They need people to get in line. And then the people who get in line eventually go, okay, I can either question this and I can be out of a job. Because if I don't have a job, then I don't have insurance. If I don't have insurance, I don't have. If I don't have my end goal,
money, I can't eat, and if I can't do this, and I can't, and then I ain't shit, and then I
ain't shit, and then I can't sit with my friends because my friends are feeling bad for me because the objective end game is to be a worthwhile human being. You come out a worthwhile human being. Boom. The minute you come out of that vagina, worthwhile human being.
That's right.
Now, imagine raising a child telling them that. Imagine raising a child telling them that they're worthwhile from jump and question everything. And beware the people who won't answer the questions or say, I don't know.
I'll tell you, I just got back. We took the kids. We took them like camping, glamping, whatever you call it. We took them down by the Rio Grande and went to
I have no idea what glamping.
I guess it's this term for like you go in a trailer and it's got like a shower. So it's not like real camping, but it's like campgrounds or whatever.
Glamorous camping.
Glamorous camping, right. So we went, we did all that. We went all over, right? Drove 6-7 hours out. And my two sons, 3 and 5, kept saying every day, this is the greatest day of my life because there was some, shitty ass pool at this, shitty hotel we were staying in. They were sleeping in bed with me and my wife. They were just like, they got to stay up late and watch the Tooth Fairy. The Rock movie was the only thing on television. They were so happy. Then they would go outside and we'd be walking in the desert and they would see all this stuff. And they just would when I say, they have everything in this house, every toy, everything you can imagine, the Netflix, the HBO Max, everything you can. But when they were just sitting here, they were so happy. Right now, my son, my 5-year-old Kane, he questions everything. Mm-hmm. He wants every night before he goes to bed. He goes, "Daddy, could we do 5 questions?" And I'm like, "Sure." How's metal made? Like that's his stuff. Like he wants to know how everything. How's this? How do trees get made? How does this? He wants to. He always has questions. So I encourage it. I realized
the world won't.
No, the world won't. Exactly. Yeah. And what you said about Eve is so true because this is what I think. And I'll say this is that even if you don't get knowledge from all these questions that you're asking, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something. You might not get the knowledge that you seek, but you will learn something. But what you said is so true, especially in Hollywood and every business, is when you question stuff, when you question yourself, when you question everything, when you question all this, just know it's going to be harder to be happy because you're going to question everything. That's okay. You're going
right, but again, you don't have to assign a value to it.
That's right. You're right. But again, what I said is you got to question everything because that's the only way you're going to keep learning things and figuring things out. Now, in our business, what I get now, like you get with the writing stuff and what you got earlier is what I get even still to this day is, hey, this is the offer on the movie. This is what it is. And I go, oh, cool. Let's talk about it. They go, no, listen, if you don't take it, they're going to go to this person. And I'm like, oh, but like, that's it. There's no discussion. There's no whatever. And they're like, nah, this is what it is. So it puts you in fear, puts the creative in fear of asking anything or figuring anything out because no, they want you, but this is the way it is. I just think that what you said, and I don't want to go too far into it, is that knowledge, questioning things is such an important lesson. And it's the lesson I kind of want to end on because it's so amazing for people to do. And I hope that you know this. And again, we've been in the business the same amount of time. You know, all this kind of stuff is that especially now where things are being told to you in a very convincing marketing fashion of this is what it is. You're either on the train or you're not. Don't question anything. Like you said. Mm-hmm. I just think that this is a very important time to question more than ever.
And to question the things that you even instantly believe.
That's right.
That's when it gets tricky, right? So I'll leave you with this. I wrote a pilot. This was during the time when agencies and studios were saying, don't write original pilots. They were like, don't do that because, you know, what the showrunners want to read are samples of other shows because if they see that you can kind of emulate the show, then you could come and do the same for them. I think that does not make a lick of sense. If I can go off and write a Law and Order that sounds like a Law and Order, does not mean that I'm going to be able to come and write a Game of Thrones that sounds like a Game of Thrones. Right? So along the whispers of the wind, the Shield comes out. Now here, Sean Ryan's story about how he was working on another show and he had owed a pilot to a studio. And he couldn't crack that pilot, so he wrote The Shield because that story had been living with him. Gave it to the studio and said, hey, this is not the thing, you know, because I think if I'm correct, Sean was more in the comedy world for a hot second. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They read The Shield, they go, this is absolutely magnificent, blah, 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 right? Next thing you know, show's on the air. Sean Ryan's all over the place. And I'm sitting there and I go, I'm going to give that a shot. Tell my agents, I'm going to write a spec pilot. No, don't do that. Don't. Nobody, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So, well, okay. But I don't think that when I write these specs, people get to hear my voice. And once I would like for people to turn me down on my voice.
That's right.
So, and I was coming off of an extremely shitty show, right? I didn't like the showrunner. The showrunner didn't like me. I quit like in the middle of a day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't know if you'll be able to work in this business again. I have to, you know, I'm going to tell your manager. I've already told her. I'm going to tell your agent, tell the studio. Great. You're still going to have to pay me out, right? Take all my shit and go home. Come back. Got me a whiteboard. I break this pilot. I give myself a month and a half to write it. I write the pilot, show it to a couple of friends. They're like, yo, this is really good. give it to my agents, give it to my manager. My agents call me back. They've got notes. And I went, I don't want your notes. They were like, well, we give notes to other clients. I was like, well, sad for them, right? Either you're calling me to tell me you're going to send this out. I'm going to live and die on my own words. Or you're telling me that I need to go and find another agent. They backed off. My manager calls and says, I think we can set this up. She sends it to a company. I sit down with the exec. We talk about it. I tell them what the first season's going to be, what the second season's going to be. They give it to a network that had stopped doing dramatic programming and was starting back up. The woman in charge reads it. This is all like 2007. The woman in charge reads it. They had spent all of their development money. They had developed like 14 pilots. We go in and sit down and talk to them. My agent goes with me. My manager goes with me. She says, we love this script, but we don't have any money. Do you think we could have a free option? And my agent starts in with, there are other places that really like the script. Why would we give you a free option? Why don't you just call the head of whatever? And I went, hold on, dude, stop. I said, yeah, you can have it. Get out to the elevator. He goes, wait, you didn't let me do my job. And I said, yeah, you also didn't want me to write this script. You weren't going to send it out. And I pointed to my manager. I said, she sent it out. That's how it got here. So let's just try something different. 4 months later, I get a phone call, taking my kids to school. It's from the agent and the manager. You're never going to believe this. What? Out of the 16 scripts, the 4 pilots that they're making, one of them is yours. Okay. Aren't you excited? Do you know how often this happens? I said, I'll hold my excitement because just because the pilot gets made doesn't mean the show will get picked up. Just because the show gets picked up doesn't mean the first season will get made. So let's just take it a step at a time. Okay, well, being very pessimistic, I said, your pessimism, my realism, right? We get into the contracts. At that time, if you weren't a co-executive producer for the folks in the audience, you couldn't get an EP credit, even if you created the show. Wow. Right? So they send me the contract, I read it, and I'm telling you, I'm like a motherfucker who's like, A is A, I. That's how I was reading pilots, right? And I see it says co-executive producer, and I go, wait a minute. All of these cats that I read about who create these shows and get them on the air, they're executive producers. What's up with that, right? So I pick up the phone to call my agents, and then I stop. And then I get on the internet, and I start co-executive producer, create show, person created this show. I start typing in how all these shows were created. And I saw same thing. A producer wrote a pilot that they were going to be in charge of, but they would only get a supervising producer credit or a co-executive producer credit, right? So I look up the network. Like I said, the network hadn't made shit in years. The last thing that they had made didn't do well, blah, 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 blah. And I start strategizing. And I get on the phone and I tell my agents, I go, listen, you got to ask for an executive producer credit. And they hit me with, that's not the way it is. Why not? Well, and they give me the textbook answer. And then I start giving them answers from stuff that I had studied.
Knowledge. And
I said, considering the fact that I let them hold that script for 4 months.
For free,
I think they'll budge on that. Well, I mean, I said, I don't want to hear no well, I mean. All I need you to do is ask. You get a phone call back. Okay, you got the executive producer credit. changed my entire career. Because you have to be just as knowledgeable about the business as you are about the show.
That is, and I'm so glad we're ending with that, because it just shows that you can take that into every single thing in life. If there's one thing you get out of whatever just went down for however long we've been talking, it's you got to ask questions, you got to do the research, and you got to see what's up. And man, you know I appreciate you more than anything.
Oh, I love you.
I love you. I really do. And
keep doing those Reaper podcasts. I love them.
Yo, you're coming on soon. Get ready, because we're going weekly. We got it. We got a bunch coming up, and then and hopefully, well, you don't know shit like we do. You're going to be just another dumbass in there doesn't know shit.
Listen, unless it's season 6 and season 7, I know nothing.
I don't even know if you know anything about those when we get in there. I'm going to test you.
I do, but the thing is, can we talk about it?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is, and those are different because those you actually see us. So the good thing is we've been debating about this. If you notice, when you watch them on YouTube, only the person that's talking you can see. And I said, man, Kim, this is good for us, because if we were side by side, right, I said there'd be a lot of side eye going on and a lot of other things. So I said, this is good. Yeah,
because I know from what I know, even when I hear, like, sometimes there'll be a and I hear a whole bunch of story that's just like, yeah, we ain't fucking with that.
Yeah, no, we ain't fucking with that.
Dude, this is great. I'm so glad you started doing this, because
thank you, brother.
I know what it means to you, but you know, you're spreading gospel.
Well, question that religion then.
Always question it. Always question it. But here's the thing that I love. An autocrat will eventually say, look at what I've done for you. Why are you questioning me? A person of the people will say, always question. Because if my truth doesn't hold up, I shouldn't have told it to you in the first place.
That's right. That's the truth. I love you, brother.
Love you.
Do your thing. Love you too.
All right.
Well. There it is. There it goes. There it was. My guy, C. Murray. I don't even know what we were talking about half the time. I got to tell you, when it ended, I wasn't sure what we exactly talked about. I remember some of it, but that's just kind of the way it is. You know the deal. You know what's up. Soon enough. Starting soon. Reaper reviews coming every week. So, you know the drill. Go to Apple Podcasts, get on there, subscribe, rate, review, write the episodes you want Coatsy and I to kind of take a look at. Go to Spotify, follow, go to YouTube, watch the videos. We're going to start doing video for everything from here on out. And, you know, thanks for riding with us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this. You know, I love this. I'm hoping you are too. So, yeah. Keep being the example. Keep searching for the truth. Keep everything in perspective. And remember, it's all over in a blink. So, fuck it. Let's have some fun. Hey, yo. Shout out to my crew, the Theory team. The team, okay? Starting with my incredible editor, Caroline Kawash, to my producer, Michael Epstein, to the incredible design skills of Cesar Arvello, to the other designer / web / everything, Justin Tordella. Go look them up. Go follow them. Go thank them. They're an incredible team, and I wouldn't be even remotely able to do a second of this without them. So shout out to the entire Theory team. Or as we say in New York, big up. incredible people, incredible humans, and I'm fortunate and proud to have them.